I'm a history teacher.
Oh, gosh.
And,
perfect. Come on, then.
So I've looked at it. First of all, I'd like anyone who hasn't read 1984 by Orwell to read it, because it's quite prescient. I think it was about 40 years too early.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's happening. And I think we misread America, because we tend to think of America as being, the democratic New York, San Francisco. It isn't that. It's a great raft across who will vote for him, whatever. They don't seem to realise he's not actually acting for them. He's acting for him. He's a total dictator.
That you're moving into second question territory a little prematurely. So in terms of how we let him do it, or how people couldn't see at the end of their own noses, you're obviously right. And that point about Emily reminding me a while ago now that petrol prices would probably be more important than sexual assault allegations or the Epstein files when it came to people casting their votes has obviously been borne out by reality. But do we know, or if you're still teaching history in 10 years, what do you think you'll be telling the class motivated Donald Trump personally, politically?
I think it's hyper-capitalism, really. It's personal greed. He's from a very privileged background. He's never really had to do anything for himself. And he's never had anyone say, I listened to his sister on the Andrew Marr.
Niece.
His niece, I'm sorry. But she was saying nobody's ever said no to him. And it seems as though he has a stranglehold on a country that is supposed to be the beacon of democracy. And he doesn't know what democracy means.
So we're going to go with greed, just pure greed. I mean, because there's lots of people who've grown up in very privileged circumstances. There's lots of people that nobody has ever said no to. Brooklyn Beckham. I mean, privilege and wealth and entitlement are all going to be head turners, aren't they? They're all potentially going to corrupt people's integrity, but there's more.
If people let them, can't
but there's more here. There has to be more here. He has to be possessed of something more than mere greed.
I think he's a megalomaniac, don't you?
What does that mean? Because so does Daniel Hannan. I bet you don't agree with him about much, do you? But here you are, both using the same word. What do we mean by megalomaniac? Somebody whose universe extends no further than their ego.
I think it's a messianic sort of syndrome, isn't it? I'm bringing peace to the world. That's a joke. And, there's nobody can stop me because I am what the world needs.
Now, this is it. Yes, this is what fascinates me, actually. Yeah. And this is what I hadn't realised fascinated me most, is that he believes his lies.
Oh, yes, he does. Absolutely.
He honestly believes he's stopped 8 wars.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
And the media still doesn't know quite how to handle it. It has to call them untruths. It can't really call them lies. And the Times this morning says Donald Trump, who claims that he has ended 8 wars. So that's why it's more than greed. Because you can be really, really greedy, but you still know that a spade's a spade. You can be really, really greedy, and you still know that you haven't ended 8 wars. But he honestly believes that he has done these things. That's the bit, I think, that's where historians and psychologists are going to have to collaborate together.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is mentally unstable.
For sure.
But I've also had this thing for ages about him, since the first time, that I think he's a stooge for Russia, and I can't get that out of my head.
It's Occam's razor now. I never dismissed it, far from it, and I think that Russian interference in referendums and elections will be something that historians of the future will be absolutely goggle-eyed at our failure to properly investigate and prosecute. But I mean, Occam's razor says, why on earth would he do things that Russia loves and his allies hate? And one obvious answer is, of course, because Russia is telling him to. And that word compromat, which Christopher Steele, of course, introduced into our vocabulary, gets bigger almost every year.
There was a caller into Ali Mirage's show the other week, and but Donald Trump is a businessman, right? And it's like, this is the best thing since sliced bread because he'll revolutionise politics and what have you. But if you think of it, right, what do business people do? So they come up with a product or a brand, and then they go out and have this brand, they get it made, they have suppliers which they constantly hammer for getting prices cheaper, then it all goes to profit and loss.
Yeah.
But you don't have any... Here's where it gets interesting. You see, you don't have allies in business. You just have competition after a certain point. And then once you get to competition, all you're into is like takeovers and buyouts and then collecting all the golden baubles for the boardroom and maintaining that brand. And I thought... that's how he sees the world. That's all he's ever known. Because he's grown up in that business that was given to him. So everything is a board.
But again, there's loads of people. There's loads of people we could say that about. There's loads of people who inherited wealth, who inherited business. I dispute the businessman analysis. I think he's closer to a mafioso. I don't think he's a businessman in a conventional sense. And I guess to sell rubbish like places at his university or his ludicrous freezer aisle steaks while claiming that they're cordon bleu cookery or fine educational establishments, maybe the best sellers of tut are people who actually believe that their tut is beautiful. Maybe that's what we take from your analysis, this idea that what makes him powerful, for want of a better word, is actually the thing that makes him weak in the eyes of so many observers. When he sells this stuff, which is absolute tut, absolute toilet, he genuinely believes it's incredible. And that's how he manages to sell it to people. Including himself, up to and including himself. He believes he's incredible, and he manages to persuade other people that he is, when the reality is so obviously the opposite.
Absolutely, I reckon that, and also he's constantly been selling everything. He's got 1 million failed businesses under his belt.
6 bankruptcies, I think, and I mean, he's the only person I'm aware of who managed to run a casino that went bankrupt.
Correct. And then we add into obviously his terrible character flaws, which we all know about. And I think you've got a really toxic mix. You've got a man here who believes in absolutely everything that he comes out of his mouth.
That's the key bit. That I think that is, and again, after all these years of talking about it, it's amazing to stumble into something that feels fresh. He believes, and that only really hit home with me with the wars. And of course with the election, I just presumed he knew he lost the election, but his ego wouldn't let him admit it. But he thinks he won it. He genuinely thinks he won it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got a massive brand like that, and that's what we've got, I mean, he's so protective of it. He's, bankrupt all the time. He's gone, the banks won't touch him, so he goes to Russia to go and get his money.
True.
I mean, that if he's been close to having nothing so many times, he has to keep going, to keep that brand going. Because what else does he do? It's got his name on the building.
Yeah.
He can't just say, I'll start a grocery business.
No, moving forward, and something is tied up in his psyche that needs this. It's a bit perhaps why he sticks gold leaf on everything and marble on everything, to mask the essential worthlessness in his core.
You asked about what history will look at Donald Trump, and I think they'll look at him as the pinnacle of a political movement that started with Reagan and Thatcher of individualism and neoliberal economics and libertarian politics, because he is the ultimate individual. He literally doesn't care what anyone else thinks, and that individuality.
But Reagan and Thatcher did.
Yeah, they did, but they started the process.
So he's like
that ended up.
Can I say the B word? Can I say the B word to describe someone illegitimate on LBC, or is that word not allowed? He's like the love child. But like Edmund in King Lear. He's like he's twisted and bent. Because libertarianism, or at least that kind of capitalism of Thatcher and Reagan, doesn't necessitate something as hideous as Trump. It might create it, but it doesn't render it inevitable.
But the growth of that has seen that it's more important for billionaires, individual billionaires, to have more money than it is for society to have enough money to fund a health service. It's more important to have tax relief for individuals for whom it makes literally no difference. They couldn't possibly need the money. But the whole process, the whole visibility that we're seeing of the right now is that it's all about the individual. And he is the ultimate individual. I mean, he doesn't care what the people around him thinks. He doesn't care about other world leaders think. But that fundamentally is why he was probably selected to be promoted by that political viewpoint. That if they put the extreme out there, then it almost covers up for everybody else. And
so he's not a mystery. He's not a mystery at all. I mean, you're describing the framework in which his personal inadequacies could flourish. So that libertarian, which is a much maligned word, isn't it? I mean, it's quite a hefty and healthy philosophical tradition. But when you see people like Toby Young describing themselves as classical liberals or libertarians on Twitter, you realise the word has been completely corrupted by idiots. So you're describing the sort of post-idiot definition of libertarian, which is I believe in freedom of speech, but not for the people criticising me. I believe I should be able to say whatever I want, up to and including encouraging people people to set fire to hotels full of humans, but I'm going to complain about Jo Brand joking about me and insist that she gets arrested. So it's like bogus libertarianism, whereby people believe that they individually should be able to do whatever the hell they want, but everybody else should do whatever the hell they want as well.
Yes. So, I mean, he is, I mean, if you take the whole sort of funding of that and you look at the right-wing think tanks that you took on in your book, and you look at what they have been promoting.
Not just in my book, Timothy. I also gave them the mother of all spankings in an Ofcom ruling as well.
Yes, but the other side of what they're promoting is this total individuality, that nobody should be responsible for anybody else. And if you reach the pinnacle of that, you reach Trump, because he's not responsible for anybody else. He's not responsible for the government. He's not responsible for America. He's only responsible to himself, which is no responsibility.
What drives him is fairly clear, is the narcissism. I think what's more important is the power that he has is the power of the American people. And why do they continue to support him?
Go on.
Well, I'd put forth three reasons, if I could. There are three major shifts in America, certainly within our lifetime, and that people haven't adjusted to them. And he provides them with an adjustment. Basically, for example, women's rights. When Sandra Day O'Connor graduated from law school, first in her class at Stanford, the only job she could get was a legal secretary. Yeah. She ended her career on the Supreme Court. Pollution. When I was younger, growing up in the Midwest, the smell of pollution, they just said it's the smell of money. Lake Erie was dead. Nothing could live in it, and that was acceptable. And racism. You know, the deed to my parents' house, I read it, said this house cannot be transferred to anyone of African descent.
Whoa.
That was legal. It was culturally acceptable. And we're not talking about the Deep South here. All of these shifts have occurred, and people haven't had a chance to adjust to them. The law can change, but cultures change more glacially. And then economic downturn, and people say, well, why? Well, it's because we haven't maintained traditional values of, and what does Donald Trump say? Women in their place. We all know about his misogyny.
Yeah.
The deep racism, and there is no climate change. So he allows people, again, gives them license to ignore these shifts.
And you can have different sized slices from each pie, because, you know, a lot of people, I saw an interview with a Somalian woman yesterday who takes her passport with her, a Somalian American who takes her passport, a business owner who takes her passport with her when she goes to the bathroom because she's frightened of ice, and she voted for Donald Trump. So she's obviously not voting for him for the racism, unless, of course, she was expecting other minorities to be targeted by him rather than her, but she might like the stuff about the pollution. You're going to be able to take, like a buffet, like a smorgasbord, you're going to be able to take a little bit of it, but not necessarily a lot of that.
And a lot of it's subconscious. It's people don't say, oh, gee, I'm going to vote for him because he's a misogynist. It's like, no, women somehow, these things have shifted, and they all go to identity. If I identify myself as having, well, I may not be as rich as I would like to be, but I'm better than fill in the blank, those people, blacks, Mexicans, Somalians, or we're humans, we should dominate nature. You know, this is our God-given right. Or I may not be all that good, but I'm better than the little woman.
And this is why the woke conversation was so helpful to them, because they managed to describe people who are in favour of women's rights, in favour of a cleaner planet and opposed to racism as woke, as if it was a bad thing to be. And that's why Trump embraced it so wholeheartedly.
I mean, he's just an opportunity. I mean, as his sister said, he's just a grifter. He saw these opportunities. And again, he was, I mean, we could go into his opponents and the structural, you know, space that allowed him even to run or to be successful. But that's not the point. The point is, why now, when it's obvious who he is, and it's been obvious for 15 years, if not longer.
And if it wasn't obvious, then A, January the 6th, and B, the pardons for the criminals guilty on January the 6th should have broken everything and didn't. Is this going to change anything? Is this week going to change? Because the rest of the world, I think, is wising up. The people who've cheered loudest for him on this side of the Atlantic are having a belated epiphany. Will it change much on the ground in the States?
I I don't know. I keep hoping that it will, but I don't.
It's the hope that gets you, Michael. The despair is easy, but it's
you have to have hope. You always have to have hope. I'd like to think that we as Americans, as Lincoln said, appeal to our better angels, that we have that possibility of. And freedom scares people.
Yes.
And so if you get somebody who answers all of your inner fears with one speech, but still, I think we could be better than we've been for the last 10 years.
And it would sadly involve Republicans, that process at some point. They're going to have to say enough is enough, or they're going to have to push back and object. And that, of course, is a frightening prospect for them to contemplate for obviously professional, political and personal reasons. Michael, I love your calls to this programme. I'm quite flattered that you make them, so thank you very much indeed once again. Michael, if you haven't worked it out for yourself as a former US diplomat,